Hi, welcome to Shared Frequencies and the Space Between, where heart meets brain and life happens in the messy middle.
We're two best friends navigating a new chapter, sharing a space, finding our rhythm and tuning into life's transitions.
This is a space for deep and meaningful conversations about growth, connection, and everything in between. It's about learning to embrace the chaos while finding harmony, whether that's between the heart and mind or just two friends figuring it out together.
So, if you've ever found yourself navigating the space between emotions and logic, comfort and change, or who you were and who you're becoming, you're in the right place.
Let's tune in to today's frequency. Okay, are we ready?
We're ready, let's do it.
I think we're ready. Hi, welcome to episode 4. We're doing episode 4, right?
It is episode 4 already,
It is episode 4. And disclaimer, this is probably going to be a roller coaster ride, I think.
Yeah.
You know, for both of us and for anyone listening, I apologize in advance. So this episode we have named Drafting the Frequency, our roommate agreement.
Yep.
And that's because we're at that stage now.
We are. Yeah, it's imminent. My moving in is well, when does this go out? It'll be
you would
a
probably
week or two away. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll probably be moved in mostly when this goes out.
No, this one goes.
I don't know.
No, this one goes
Again.
out. This one will be out. This is why there's a disclaimer.
Yeah.
Heads up butts is probably what we should have called this episode.
Yeah. I'm definitely
Butt frequency?
the butt of the frequency. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, as always, I'm Elle.
And I'm Don. Yes, still.
Still. So, yes. I have been a little manic this week. Mm-hmm. It has been a manic week. It does feel like this week in itself, like the past, it's only Friday today.
It is only Friday. We're recording this one on a Friday. Yeah.
We are recording this on a Friday. We're recording this on the Friday and it's going live on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So it's only 4 days away.
Yes.
Ay, caramba, this is...
And then we're looking at my moving in beginning of March.
Yeah, which is a week away.
The
beginning of March is a week
yeah.
away. Yes. Oi. Yes, you are in for it. If there are any listeners out there today, you are in for it. Hold on to your butts because...
Real, unedited, unprepared for, unrehearsed.
Yeah. Unrehearsed, uncoordinated, and...
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway.
Exactly. So what we're doing today is we're talking about, in essential, our roommate agreement.
Yes.
And how things are going to go forward.
Yes.
Now, I had a big lesson this week.
You did.
I had a very big lesson this week. And it's something I'm going to take with me forevermore. Mm-hmm. Don't break into song, Elle. This is not a musical podcast.
You don't want a copyright strike.
Oh, no, exactly. Oh, Jesus. So, the big lesson that I learned today, and I knew it.
Yeah.
But I clearly needed a reminder because the universe smacked me in the face with it. And that is create a baseline. So let's do a little self-check-in.
Yep.
Let's do a little check-in. And this will also explain a little, I think, why I'm flustered and why I am manic. Because my energy is manic.
Bouncy,
very flustered.
Yeah.
Just... Yeah.
You mentioned when we talked earlier in the week. You mentioned about it feeling like there was static, and stuff kind of and things. And I was like, when I get like that, it feels more like I'm in a room full of bees, and I don't know which one to swat first. Yeah.
Where I feel like, do you remember? Do you know in the 90s there were these? They almost looked like crystal balls, but they were had this electrical coil thing inside it, and then you put your fan. Yeah, exactly. You put your fingers on them, and then the electricity found your almost like a Faraday cage, but
it was like it's static. It just
yeah, exactly. And then your fingers got really warm,
It's like, yeah.
That's kind of what I feel like when I get into these episodes. And the thing is, it's very new for me to have this self-discovery. And I don't know yet what my cure to that is. Or not necessarily cure, but like what do I need to just like ground myself? Like, do I need to burn more energy, or is it because I'm totally overstimulated and I need total sensory,
deprivation?
Exactly. Is that what I need? So I'm playing around with a couple of potential.
So I think we kind of just need to tell people why, not necessarily why, but what you've been doing and about the place and what's feeding into this. Yeah.
So that was exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
Oh my word! I can't even believe you're the one keeping me on track. This is bad.
But this is bad. But it's how we work. It's how we work.
It is.
It's real trouble when we both go off kilter.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Okay. So yes, self-check-in and just sort of like putting everything into perspective. As we've talked about in previous conversations, let's just say conversations, because there might not be anyone listening. So in previous conversations, is that I've always moved around a lot.
Yes.
So just setting the scene again, I've always moved around a lot, and I've finally found a place that's all mine. This is my base. This is where I have settled in. These are my roots. Like, this is my sanctum sanctorum. And my friend who moved in with me when I first bought the house moved out 6 months after.
Yep.
So I have been alone in this space for 4 years. And she had been gone from the house. I mean, I'm not even sure she'd left the road yet when I started moving things into my spare bedroom and then office and creating the office, because I had been working from my bedroom. So for 4 years, I have truly utilized every space of my house. And I have been very actively aware of the changes that I need to make in my space and the way that I use my space. Oh, I might be the first one crying on a podcast. I have been very actively aware of the changes that I will need to make in this space and the way that I use the space to make sure that there is space for you.
Yes.
So the first thing I did, which was the biggie, was when you arrived down for Christmas. Like, you were literally at the door and I ran out to meet you almost the same way that my dog normally does.
Yes, yeah.
And I was like, right, you can't come in yet because I need to tell you what's happening.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what have you done now? I was like, so I've started moving my furniture around in my bedroom so I can move my office stuff into my bedroom and create that space for you and starting for you to use that bedroom as yours. Yeah. And that was tough. I walked around the bedroom for a couple of hours and just be like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. And it was not necessarily a big, I mean, it was a big change, but it wasn't a drastic change. My bed had moved 2 inches to the right, and I had moved a dresser from the end of my bed under the window over to alongside my bed against the wall. And then I had moved the desk and my chair into my bedroom, which is then at the end of my bed under the window or in the window. In the window, oh, excuse me. So it was not a drastic change, but it was a big change in the way that I use the space, but also how the space feels. And I've gotten used to it.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten used to it. But then, obviously, the way that you use common spaces when living together is very different than the way you use your space when you're living on your own, when it's just you.
Yeah.
So what has happened this past week is I have cleared my bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Now, ever since we did the bathroom
Yeah.
4 years ago,
Yeah.
that has been a space that I have felt so happy and comfortable in.
Yes.
And then I started clearing it out. So I've cleared out the shower shelf. So there's space for anything you need. Shower gels and whatever.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you like.
I'm not a big products person.
No. But again, I don't know how you use your shower.
Yeah.
Like, you know, do you take mental health showers? Do you do crying showers? Do you do shaving showers? Like, I don't know how you use your showers. There are several different types of showers when you're a lady.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, it's mainly mental health showers and just a quick sort of shower. And then there is shampoo and conditioner and the whole thing, shebang, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I cleared that out, which now feels super empty.
Mm-hmm.
I cleared out a shelf in the space next to the sink.
Yeah.
And I cleaned out the cabinet under my sink, which is where I store my towels and cleaning product and extra stuff that I have. So I cleared all of that out. And as I was doing that, there were obviously stuff that I hadn't used for a while. And then there were things that I was like, well, I don't need this anymore, or I haven't used it for a while, so that needs to go out. But like these things I don't want to throw out, so they need to be relocated, and like the way that I'm using my bathroom is also going to have to change.
Yes. Because
I can't be guaranteed that you're not going to be in the bathroom when I remember that I need to put makeup on 5 minutes before I need to leave in the morning. And, you know, we don't know what your work schedule is going to look like compared to mine. So it's just all of these small adjustments. So I did that. I cleared out the bathroom, and that felt super empty. But then I had created clutter in my corridor. And then I also needed to pack away my extra duvet and pillows and things because you're obviously bringing your own. Yeah. So there was like storage things that I needed to figure out in my bedroom, which meant that I need to reorganize my drawers where I have all of my clothes and all of my stuff. And I needed to reorganize the shelves that I have in my bedroom. Yeah. So I have taken all the stuff out. So I did the calculations this morning when I was on the phone to my sister. And I went from having 4 pieces of furniture, not including my clothing rack thing. So 4 sort of main pieces of furniture in my bedroom, and 4 pictures hanging on the wall, to now having 6 big pieces of furniture in my room. But also whenever I do laundry, my laundry is now in my bedroom for drying, because I used to use my spare space as my drying space. So it all of a sudden makes it very cluttered. And then I have added an additional 4 pictures, and they're all very colorful and they're very bright and just attention grabbing. So when I have laundry on, which I have had during the week because I've done lots of laundries, and you know, and then I was moving things about, and my bedroom was just so cluttered. Yeah. And when my space is cluttered, my brain just can't function. Yeah. That's how I know whether or not I'm on a downward spiral. Yeah. Is how does my physical space look? So when I deliberately or otherwise change the way that I have my space. So if I clutter up my space, that immediately has an impact on my mental health.
Yeah.
So it has felt like, and we talked about it the other day, and I described it as like micro traumas.
Yeah.
It's something I'm very willing to do, and it's something that is needed, but it does feel like that. It does feel like micro traumas. Yeah. So that's sort of like what has happened over the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And then you add work stuff and personal stuff and like
life. Yeah.
Yeah, life stuff.
Yeah.
Onto it. So like checking in with myself and like, where am I at? It makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? That I am bouncy. That I am it makes sense that I am bouncy.
Yeah.
It makes sense that I am wired and just flustered. Static electricity just from everywhere. So yeah, that's sort of where I am. Just was a really long way to set the scene, but
yeah, no, and that makes sense. You say we talked about it, and you know, and I'm aware, you know, and this is where we're good. You know, before we talked about it. Slap the glass table with my ring. So yeah, and I am conscious of it, you know, and I am conscious of these things, and grateful, you know, for it. And there is, you know, it's things you don't necessarily think about, you know, and same but different on my side is you know, so I'm coming from a 2-bedroom place to come and stay here, you know, so I have a lot of stuff, a lot of things, you know, that and that extra space, all that space, to here as well, you know. So I'm sitting looking at all my stuff, going, how do I condense this down?
Yeah.
You know, what do I? First of all, what do I need? You know, and then what do I want? You know, what personal effects, etc. You know, do I want? And that's tough, you know, because again, I've been in my own space now for approaching
4 years.
Approaching 4 years. You know, I've had my own space, totally my own space. You know, but yeah, and prior to that, you know, a bit of bouncing around and living with different people.
But that's the thing, right? So where mine are micro traumas that are happening in my physical space, which is a really big thing for me.
Yeah.
Like a really big thing for me. Yours are big stuff, right? Yours are all the big ticket items, right? They're all the classic stressors, the really big, potentially traumatic changes.
For sure.
Right?
And it's leaving stuff behind almost, you know. And I mean, will there be stuff that I pack up in boxes and put into storage until I've got my own place again? Absolutely. You know, but it's also questioning why some things are important to me or not important to me. Actually, what is the value in things? You know, just because I own it doesn't necessarily mean to say it has value to me. You know, so, and it is that kind of because I am a hoarder.
Yeah.
You know, not the filling my house with rubbish type hoarder, but you know, when people are looking for something, I'm the person to come to and go, you don't have a such and such random item, by the way. Do you? And I generally do. So, I mean, this podcast may sound slightly different to the previous podcast, Because
Episode.
Sorry, I've been working on it. This episode may sound different, because we've got different microphones. Because I just so happen to have a podcast set up.
Well, we're currently set up with 2 different microphones each.
Yes.
You know, because who knows? We've not used these other microphones before.
No.
And we've not, we've not tried this setup before. So we are belts and braces because we're also bouncy.
Yeah. So we're still using the ones that we've previously been using.
Recording on,
because we know they work. We tested them. Because I just arrived down a couple of hours ago, we haven't had a chance to sit and test. I've done testing on it, but we haven't had a chance to test it in this environment before. So, if all goes well, this may sound
if the
different.
if the sound quality is different, if anyone's listening, then that's because we're using different microphones.
We're using different microphones, but we're using stuff that I had sitting there from previous. So in regards to hoarding, it is like...
But I think you need to put a little bit of context to that, right? Because that's the hobby hoarding.
Yes.
Right? That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And, despite not having an official diagnosis...
No, I don't,
there are definite signs and indicators...
Of ADHD.
Of ADHD, right?
Absolutely.
And it's the classic sort of like... Oh, right. Like Gen X, millennial sort of, oh, I see.
Yeah, and it is. It's like, so, when I'm going, because I'm finding it all again, all these bits and pieces, so like sports equipment. I mean, I've got my own 10-pin bowling balls.
Of course you do.
I've got badminton rackets and tennis rackets. I've got, 3 sets of golf clubs. I've got all the, I think I've got a hockey stick. It's just like, I do that. I kind of get an idea, I get into it for a little while, and then I move on to something else.
Yeah.
So I was doing podcasty stuff, and so decided to go out and buy all the podcast equipment to do like a 4-person podcast setup. And when I pulled the stuff out to go, actually we could use it for this, there was some of the kit was still in its cellophane wrapping.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is not cheap stuff either. I tend not to do it that way, unfortunately. That's for me. So in terms of the preparation for moving and coming to spaces, and looking at belongings and stuff. That's what I've been doing.
And it's so interesting because we've talked about this before, and on a previous episode, but also again we've flipped, and I think that's probably why it feels like micro traumas for me.
Yeah.
Because that is what my life has been up until 5 years ago when I got this place.
Yeah.
Right? I was constantly packing. I was constantly reassessing and looking at all of my belongings and being like, well, you've not used that for 6 months, so you're not carrying that with you.
Yeah.
You've not utilized that for a while. You can't actually physically fit that into your suitcase. Or like you don't have space for that in the space you're going in. So my life up until 5 years ago was very, like, you have to be very economic with your space, like with your belongings.
Yeah.
Whereas you've had the opposite. So now where I have been used to not having to do that, and I've really enjoyed just being able to express myself with the art on my walls and, the way that I use my space and the way that I live here. Having to then censor myself again is really difficult.
And it's we've had bits of conversations about this before, and it's this is your home. This is
it is.
And I don't want you to be feeling like it's not that, or that, you know, I don't necessarily have the words for it, but I even when I move in, it will still be your home, you know, and it's finding that balance. I'm finding that frequency.
But that's also why we're doing this podcast, right? Because this is our accountability partner.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This is having the conversations we need to have, because it's going to be difficult, right? It's always difficult to change status and change the way that you utilize your life and your space and like whatever it might be.
You know, so in my room, you know, I've put up clothing rails. I've taken some bits and pieces down and I've put them in there, and I've got some stuff going. And when I came down this time, I've now brought my own bedding, and I've got all that stuff there now. And it is just, it's finding that it's. I don't want to feel like an intruder.
No, and I think that's why it's been so important to me. I have lost a friendship previously.
Right.
I don't actually think I've ever told you this story. So I was just finishing up uni, kinda. We were going on exchange.
Yeah.
We had a semester exchange, and I don't actually remember if it was before leaving or just as I came back. I don't remember that, but my sister and I had been living together.
Yeah.
And just as we were about to leave, we were going to renew the contract. We were subletting from one of my sister's teachers. It was very complicated. And he had decided that actually he wanted to sell the place, which is absolutely his prerogative. We'd been there for a year. That was the original agreement. But then all of a sudden my sister was standing there and didn't have a place to stay. And I was like, oh, it's fine. I'm going to be in New Orleans for 6 months anyway, so I can find a place when I come back. And for a while, I was sort of like bouncing back and forth.
Yeah.
And a school friend, a really good friend of mine, we were a group of 6 girls. We were girls at the time. Yeah, six or seven. And we were very close at the time. And one of those girls had just got a 1-bedroom flat.
Okay.
And it was always just going to be temporary. We were just moving out because I had all of like my food stuff, my spices and like things. And she was like, hey, you can come and stay with me. And I'm like, are you sure? And she's like, absolutely. I don't have a lot of space. We have to share the bed, and it's a sofa bed, you know, but absolutely we can. And I was trying to be as helpful and as non-intrusive as I could be. She was working quite a lot. She had decided not to complete the course we were doing and go in a different direction. So she was working.
Yeah.
And so I would have like dinner ready, and I would do the grocery shopping, and I would help with the cleaning and things. But again, it was a 1-bedroom flat, and it's hard, you know, and this was her first space.
Yeah.
But I don't think we were very good at having those conversations. And we ended up in an argument about something. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. But she was very frustrated that I was there all the time, which I totally get.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I also didn't really have somewhere else to go. And she was probably just stressed and overwhelmed. But neither of us were very good at communicating that. And again, our communication styles and our love languages are very different. But we ended up falling out. And I'm very... It's very hard for me when I feel like I have been let down.
Yep.
There is no coming back from that for me.
Yeah.
And I felt, see, there we go. First one to cry on the pod. That's why I have tissues on the table. I felt so disappointed.
Yeah.
And so neglected in our friendship. Like I felt like just not appreciated and not valued. And I had a friend who lived just a little further down the road from where she was living, and she was either away or she'd moved in with her boyfriend or something, but her flat was empty, and it was only going to be for another week before I was leaving. And she was like, yeah, you can use my space, no problem. And that evening I packed up all my shit and I moved into my other friend's place, and I stayed there for a week, and I don't think I have ever talked to that friend again.
Okay. Yeah.
And we were very close.
Yeah.
Like we were very, very close. I'm just gonna take a napkin here. Boop. Sound effects. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that I am mindful as well. I said it to you right back, when we started looking at this. It's probably my biggest fear in all this.
But that's why I suggested this podcast, right? Because I've been on the other side of this, where I thought I was welcome, and then I wasn't.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying this was all her. It definitely wasn't. This was the both of us. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, kinda. And that's why it's important for me to make sure that all of the micro traumas that are from my side have already been processed before you're here, because I don't hold it against you, and it's not your fault, and it is because of you, but it's because of you that I want to do this.
Yes, and
right?
And
I would not have done this with like anybody else.
Yeah.
There are very few of my friends that I would have do it.
And that's it. And I'm very aware of that. And it is. And I mean, it's not like we haven't spent time in the same space together.
No, but
previously,
it's different.
But it's
right.
When I've moved in full time, as it were, previously I always knew, and our friendship is such that if you needed your space and whatnot, you would just ask me when I was going up the road and go, any chance you can go up the road a day or so before I just need a bit of space, or whatever it be. I always knew that was an option that was there, and I mean, don't get me wrong, you can turf me out any time you like, such as your
but
and I'm not saying that you would or would expect it, but it's just that changes. That's a change. That's something different in terms of my kind
so
of spending time.
Just to give an example on how my everyday is going to change with you being here, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing that happens when my alarm goes off is that I turn on the lights, and then my dog comes in.
Yeah.
She jumps up on the bed. She doesn't sleep in the bed with me, not because she's not allowed to, but because she doesn't want to. So she comes up. I only get cuddles from her in the morning.
Yeah.
We get up, and I get dressed. I go to the bathroom or whatever I need to, and then we go for a walk.
Yeah.
We then come back, and I usually go in and I will go to the kitchen. I would then make myself a smoothie or a juice, or a cup of tea or a cup of coffee.
Or whatever,
but juicing and or blending, making a smoothie, is very loud. So I will not feel comfortable doing that when you're here.
Oh, okay.
Unless I know that you're getting up as well.
Yeah.
So if you're getting up and you have to go to work, I would be okay with that. But if you're not getting up, I will not feel comfortable having that in the morning. Yeah. So I need to change what I have for my breakfast or how I have my breakfast. Okay. Do I make porridge, or do I make overnight oats, or do I make baked oats, or do I make chia pudding pots, or whatever it might be, right? Yeah. So there's a change that needs to happen there. Then I sit in my living room and I have whatever I have had. Yeah. And then I would then normally, my bed is already made at this point. Yeah. If I'm leaving the house, I will be prepping my lunch in the morning. Yeah. If I'm not leaving the house, I will just be chilling in the living room. Yeah. Then, just as I'm about to start work, I would go in and I would turn on my computer. But I would then not enter my bedroom until if I'm changing to go for a run or something, or when I'm going to bed. Yeah. So I don't spend any time in my bedroom. My bedroom is where I sleep, which also I think is a testament to why my quality of sleep is so good. So I would spend time in my office working during the day, and then I spend time in my living room, whatever that might be. But then if I'm really overwhelmed, I might not do my dishes that evening. Yeah. And then that means that there are dishes out there, but that will also have to change, because you can't do that in a common space. So the way that I use the common space is the way that I use my bathroom. I also shower in the middle of the day if I'm working from home, right? And I can't necessarily do that if you're home. I could, but you never know. So the way that you use common spaces is something that changes. Yeah. So it's important for me that I have all of these, when I get really overwhelmed, and these, they do feel like micro traumas, are fully processed before you're here, because I don't ever want to feel like I hold it against you.
No, and
so I think having these conversations are very important.
Yeah. So just on the practicalities of what you've just said there, if you're in your kitchen, you want to make a smoothie in the morning and you want to use it, go for it. If I'm not ready to wake up and be up, that's not gonna faze me.
Will that sound not bother you?
No.
Oh my God, I've nearly strangled my housemate previously because she decided that she was going to make a smoothie at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. My phone ringing in the night, just a standard ring or whatnot, won't necessarily wake me.
Okay.
For my alarm, I have to know what the alarm is. My brain has to kind of know what my alarm noise is for waking me up in the morning, because it will just shut out anything else. So it knows at the moment I've got Sia Titanium as my wake up tune. So anything other than that is not necessarily going to wake me up in the morning.
Oh, that's interesting.
Unless somebody gives me a shout or whatever, uses my name, then that will be. There are people on my phone who have a different ringtone to my standard ringtone, because they are people who, if I get a call from them in the night, I want to wake up. So
that's interesting.
Crack on.
In
that
it's
regard.
just
and it's also I'm not a grumpy morning person. If something wakes me up earlier and then I need to get up, I'm just fine. If I need to be up shortly afterwards anyway, I'll get up. If not, I just go back to sleep. Yeah. So that's in that regard, cool, fine. But and it's and again, this is possibly the ADHD thing. I've not really I've thought about, but not necessarily processed the physical moving in script, the scenario, what I'm going to go through. I'm kind of going, I know that I have to decide what I'm going to take with me, and I know the space that I've got for my room. But beyond that, I'm very comfortable in your space. And with the way you have it decorated and the way you have it laid out, you know, I'm very comfortable.
Yeah.
And always have been.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes this has been my sanctuary.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I'm very, very comfortable in your space. And yeah, you know, it's going to be nice to have a shelf in the bathroom, you know, to put my bits and pieces on. Again, I don't have a lot of product. I'm like shower gel, shaving foam, razor, you know, type.
The odd nail polish.
No. Traumatic experiences with nail polish for another time.
No. It was not the nail polish that was the problem.
It was the removal of nail polish.
It was not nail polish that was the problem. It was the fake nails, acrylic nails.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll leave them hanging on that story for another time as to why I had fake nails and stuff on.
I know that we've been going for quite a while now.
But I think actually, do you know, I think we should unless you want to stop, I think we should just keep talking, and if we need to split this into 2 episodes to make them. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking we could do that and go sort of like more into the nitty gritty and do like a roommate agreement negotiations.
Yeah, we
can do that. Yeah. But I think there's one thing that I really want to touch on before we finish for this episode.
Yeah.
And I think that's just like that personal space, right? Do you remember when we were interviewed for the QTA position? And I'm assuming they asked, I know for a fact they asked you this question, right? So when you've had a really busy, tough day at work.
Yes.
And you are overwhelmed.
Yes.
And in this situation, overstimulated.
Yes.
How do you manage that? And I know that my answer is no longer the reality.
Okay.
That's not how I cope with stress anymore, right? And I'm not sure it really was the way that I was coping with stress when I answered it. It was the way that me and my housemate were just dealing with life.
Yeah.
So that's not, again, her moving out was an eye-opener for me, because I was just doing what she was doing, because that was just it. Like the whole runaway bride with Julia Roberts, like, how do you like your eggs? Oh, I like my eggs the way my partner likes their eggs, type thing. Which I hadn't even fucking realized that I was doing. So when I answered that question, that was not an actual truthful response.
Yeah.
And I know that your response is also going to change, because...
But my response has probably changed already, and probably changed a while ago. On that. So my response to that at the time when I took the job was I would go and spend time with my nieces and nephews, and get a hug off my nieces and nephews, and that's something that I'm not going to be able to do so readily.
Yeah, because they're no longer living across the road.
No, and especially get a hug from them. That was kind of it.
Hang on a second. You're saying that I made you a hugger, that you were not a hugger until you met me, but actually hugging your nieces and nephews was something that was very important to you before you met me, because you answered that question like that before you met me. Yeah,
but now I will hug everybody. I do. I'm like I hug everybody.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So go ahead.
Yeah. But that and it was the hug thing that stuck in my mind with that. With them back then. But I was also, that was just when I was having a bad day, because when I went into that job, I wasn't coming out of a job where I had stressful days. I was doing the Kuvan thing and whatnot. So, yeah, that was just what I kind of was doing if I was having a bad day. So anyway, they're kind of at the age now where hugs are not cool.
Of course.
You know, so just chatting with them is what I do now. And, you know, that can be done on the phone. That can, you know, so it is something I'm very, very aware of. Very aware of. Is that, you know, Uncle Dodo, as they call me, yeah, just is not gonna. It's just not gonna be, well, across the road for some of them, or just round the corner for some of the others. So yeah, I'm. It is something I'm conscious of, and you know, you might not be the only one to cry on this podcast. On this podcast, you know, so yeah, moving further away from them is tough.
Yeah,
that's going to be the toughest thing, you know. But yeah, I mean, we have phones now, we have video calls now, you know, to keep up with them. You do.
That's how I keep up with my nephews, you know. I mean, and then they do the really shitty, heartbreaking, pulling at your heartstrings things where they're like, "I really miss you. I want you to come home." Yeah. And you're like, "Oh my gosh." Yeah.
So. And they're already aware that I'm going to move. You know, they're already aware.
But they're also of an age, every single one of them, where they understand that conceptually, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, for sure that is a factor. And you know, all my family are geographically live fairly close together at the moment. You know, and that's a change. You know,
so does all of my family except for me.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's another thing that we have in common. So, so yeah, it's not a thing that I'm taking lightly. It's not a decision that I've made lightly. It's maybe one I should have done sooner, I think. You know, but it's just kind of like I should have decided what I wanted from life long before now, and for various reasons that I've not done that. You know, we can go into them another time. But yeah, and I just feel like this is the time to do it. You know, things didn't pan out in the job that I was in. I decided to leave, and now I'm going to seek new opportunities and do something else. And you know, I love being in your company and spending time with you. You know, we enjoy a lot of the same things, you know, and some of the things that we've not necessarily had the chance to do or because of work or the effects of work primarily on my side. You know, like going walking so often and stuff like that, you know, we've kind of, you know, that's a thing that's kind of, you know, so yeah, so being here and doing those things and yeah, is what I want to do, and you know, just having and doing for me. You know, so yeah, that's the driving factor, and the deciding factor for me. And yeah, that does mean you have to move further away from some other things, but you know, it's a couple hours up the road. You know, it's not other side of the world. You know, it's however long it takes to press a button on a phone to speak to family and to nieces and to nephews and stuff like that. It's you know, yeah, so absolutely I've played through that in my head, and it still does. It's still, you know, it's not like I've gone process done with. You know, it's still the thing, you know, that you're mindful of, that I'm mindful of, you know, as we get closer to my moving in here, you know. So
what is your strategy for dealing with that stress and needing that personal space?
I mean, I have a room. You know, I can go and sit in my room and phone them or whatever. You know, there's outside space. You know, yeah, it's just like, yeah. It's that's kind of my strategy for it. And I think one of the things we're really good at is sitting in silence. I don't, we don't, just because we're sitting in a room, neither of us, I don't think, feels the need that we need to be conversing constantly. And if we're having a conversation and whatnot, and more often when we're on the phone, I suppose, and we're kind of like, yeah, I'm done chatting for now, we do that. And I think that then transfers over into living together. If I want space to make a phone call, I'm just go in my room and make a phone call. I've got no problems with doing that. It's like lived for a bit with my brother, and we had that kind of finding space thing, and that's what we did. When I was back living with my parents for a while. So it's not like I'd never spent time living in somebody else's space. I'm the same as you. I've just had this period of time where I've had that, and it's changing. It's changing, and I don't see that as going backwards. I don't see it as anything. It's just a change. It's just doing something a bit differently, and on it. So I've got, and it's and likewise, it's like, there's a friend coming to stay, like a mutual friend coming to stay, who I got to know through you, and there were plans in place so that I was going to be going and doing something else and giving you guys a bit of time, just the two of you, and that's kind of fallen through now. But if these guys are sitting and you're kind of like, and you want to just a bit of space, just ask me just tell me you guys want a bit of space for girly chat that you don't want a bloke listening into, and I'll go. I
don't think, what, the things that we've put you through in other scenarios.
Oh yeah.
And I think, there is no conversation that
but
I don't want to have, like, with you that I would have with her.
But I wasn't. It's just like sometimes you just want to have girly.
The only thing that you might have to realise is that we're going to be starting Germany's Next Top Model. So there's that. And
this is it, and it's fine, and that's just that one friend. But any other friends or partners or whatnot, like if you need this space,
that's definitely going to be a conversation at some point. Not that either of us have any partners at the moment, but there's that. Then, oh my God, have you seen the dog? She's totally. I think she's over it as well. That this is the longest episode that we have. It has.
I think we've just touched on.
Oh, we touched an hour.
Well, not quite.
Okay.
Not quite. It's a bit like our phone calls when we go, have we been talking for an hour? No, it's been 3.
Yeah. I think the personal space one is going to be tough for me.
Yeah, but as I say,
it's going to be tough for me.
For me, it's just a case of you going, I need a bit of space.
Well, that will never happen. That will.
I don't mean as bluntly as that, but
but like that will never happen. But it might be a case of, like, I'm gonna have to go for a long walk. I'll be back in 3 hours. Type thing.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm going to go down to London, or I'm going to go to Ireland. And I think that's probably really good for me, that I will have to make those decisions and actively make that decision. But it's weird. Here we go again. It's a very weird feeling of knowing that for that person, I know, for getting that personal space, for getting that potential breathing space, I will have to leave my house, and that's a
but this
weird
is also
feeling.
This is where absolutely we need to be having this conversation.
Exactly. This is not going to be like, oh, I've had a shit day. If I've had a shit day, I'm going to go for a run or whatever it is. So that's not the case. This is when I'm overwhelmed or overstimulated, or like when I need, and that's gonna be like, it's a weird feeling.
But if you need space here of a weekend or whatever it is, I can go, I'm also quite happy to go and just go, like, if you just want to have a weekend here, nobody about, doing your thing and whatnot. Honestly, I have and will have no issue with you going, do you want to go up the road and see your family this weekend?
Can you please fuck off and go to see your family?
That's
also not going to happen. But
perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, but it's a weird concept to have to get to terms with. Mm-hmm. It's a weird concept to have to get to terms with.
And it is, and we can talk about it, and it's great that we talk about it and that we're aware and that we're thinking of all these things.
Yeah.
And we will.
But that's also why this is going to succeed.
Yeah.
That is why this is not going to break our friendship.
Yeah.
This is going to make our friendship stronger.
Yeah.
And I know it is, because again, we're having these conversations, right? Okay. I definitely think this has been a really good conversation.
We're probably at the stage where we're going to have to split this one in two anyway.
I'm not sure we're necessarily that yet, but I definitely think we should sign off for today.
Okay, let's sign off for today.
So, thank you for tuning in. This has been an emotional roller coaster episode, and very different from what I thought it was going to be. But thank you for listening to Shared Frequencies and the Space Between.
We hope our conversation today has helped you find a little more clarity, and as is a little more clarity in your spaces, in our space between, whatever that might look like.
And remember, just like what we are at the moment, it is absolutely okay to be a work in progress. We're all just figuring it out, one frequency at a time.
So if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need to hear it.
And until next time, keep tuning in and finding the space that works for you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.